Fuck is up, guys? And this time I say guys with confidence because I finally read the note in the request that this is an all-male league, so now I do not need that gender-neutral language, which is great. Before we do our recap, I got a request in a different league to share my own team, because I clearly have some bias on some guys, so I want to be clear into who my pro bias is for, because obviously guys on my team are guys that I'm going to be hyping up. And I made some trades, so in the past I might have been hyping up a guy like Montgomery, which I know I've done in this league a few times, but he's not on my team anymore, even though I still like him a lot. But anyway, just to recap my team, and yes, it's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. QB Rodgers, running backs Zeke and Aaron Jones, wide receivers Michael Thomas and Thielen, in the flex Kenyon Drake, also David Johnson, George Kittle's my tight end. So those are the guys I'm going to be a little higher on. And if you're wondering why my team's so sick, it's because I'm a fantasy expert. I made a lot of trades, and my league thinks I ripped some guys off. But hey, I'm hustling out here. So anyway, now you know the bias, and let's dive into the actual matchup for this week. First game, straight knockout versus the Prophet. Let's just jump in right away. Straight knockout got a dub to go to 3-3. Really good showing. This one was a combo between good management and some luck, as fantasy success kind of is always based around. The good management we'll start with is Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks really coming into a solid role with Houston. I mean, with DeAndre leaving, I was talking up Fuller a ton. Unfortunately, he's doing that, but we overlooked, or at least I overlooked Cooks. Cooks, 9 targets, caught all 9 of them for 68 yards at a touchdown. Back-to-back really solid weeks. There's no reason to think it can't be sustainable. I mean, it's definitely not a wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, but as a high upside wide receiver 3, I think Brandon Cooks could be, especially in a league where you start 3 wide receivers and a flex, I think Brandon Cooks could be a startable player consistently, and great, honestly, good management for team straight knockout, seeing that early on. Definitely a part of what got him the win. As far as the luck here was twofold. Number one, Melvin being out, so now Lindsey's a stud, so congrats on that. He only got 14 points, which is solid, but if he got in the end zone, obviously would have had a bigger day. And they could not get in the end zone. They kicked six field goals. But as long as Melvin's out, and if you're a Lindsey owner, you're hoping Melvin has a 3-week suspension. As long as Melvin's out, Lindsey really solid RB2 here to pair up with Connor, and this is a team that we talked about last week could really benefit from an RB2. But on the second lucky note, now you have Mostert out, and now you have McKinnon on your bench. McKinnon is going to be the starting running back on a team where it's really good to have a starting running back. That SF team that is a competent passing game, but really thrives in the run game. They have some injuries to the O-line, but either way, McKinnon, a very good option here as well. So this team that was thirsty for running backs last week is no longer. It's still short term, and I'd still obviously warn that we might want to come up with a longer term solution. But in the meantime, at 3-3 straight knockout, doing a really good job managing the team to put yourself in a spot for potentially making the playoffs. And I see it as a fringe playoff team. Team the Prophet also 3-3, but this was the heels of a loss. Not much changes to this team. We talked about Montgomery. Montgomery still had a decent week without the touchdown. So you have to like that this is seemingly his floor in this league, and I think this week he got 13.7, so that's a good floor. Fuller continues to prove himself, which is fantastic news for you also in a spot where you played him in the flex, and he's probably going to be a good option at wide receiver with some changes to your wide receiver group, especially Amari losing Dak. This is the team that we've been really pushing, and I'll continue pushing just because I love seeing trades, and I've been looking at the transactions in this league, or at least trying to, and I don't think I've seen a trade. So I'm not seeing many trades, and this is the team that we were talking a ton about, trading Rodgers in the past, because you have Mahomes and Rodgers. Really good opportunity to get rid of Rodgers and get a better wide receiver or running back, mainly running back for yourself, because Singletary's right now your RB2, which is a really bad situation to be in. No trade made. I know I'm continuing to say the same thing, but I'm saying this because I think you might have missed the opportunity to trade Rodgers at his peak. So I think Rodgers is a good option, but showing that the O-line's a little vulnerable, they put a lot of pressure on him, and obviously he didn't do well. He got negative points in this league. So you're stuck with the team you have, which isn't bad. You still have a good team, but Singletary's your RB2, which is the hole in the team, and he continues not to be the guy. Another bad week. Zach Moss now played. He actually didn't get that many carries, so it's not like Singletary lost on that, but just Singletary is an option, just not a great option. The final good news here for this team is Amari. You had to be nervous without Dak if Amari's going to still have value. Early on, it looked like the answer was no, but the game script was so heavy towards passing since they were down the whole time that he was able to escape with a good game. The concern is that going to happen if it's a competitive game? I'm not really sure. I definitely think Amari's value is hurt, but the good news is that there's still value there. So both teams 3-3, both teams in a similar boat contenders, and we'll see what happens from there. Train versus El Capitan. Pellion Train taking the L to go to 4-2. We talked about value diminishing for this team. Some of it did, some of it hasn't yet. Mike Davis, we're still awaiting McCaffrey coming back, so you hope for a bigger week from Mike Davis. Mike Evans, that value did diminish. As we mentioned, we were nervous about what it would look like with Godwin back. Mike Evans only two targets, 1 reception for 10 yards. That wide receiver group, absolutely putrid week. 3 starting wide receivers got you 5 overall points. That is probably a record in this league. That's very difficult to do. Only 2 catches from all 3 receivers total. Really rough. You're going to assume that T.Y. and Hardman are going to see the bench moving forward. Mike Evans is going to keep that spot, although he's not the wide receiver 1 you were hoping. DK is going to be coming in, and then I would be curious to see what this team's going to do. I would think Fulgham might get a look after going for 6 catches, 75 yards on 10 targets again and a touchdown. AJ even getting 11 targets, 8 receptions for 96 yards. I didn't even notice he had that big of a week. So you have the options on the bench, and there were some nice pickups, as I mentioned, and you also have P. Ryan, who has some value that might start growing throughout the season. Damian Harris, who might see some value also growing. So while this is a team who I did think would regress a bit, and you do take the L to go to 4-2, there are also pieces that might actually see better value, including Aaron Jones even. Aaron Jones has been very involved in the passing game, but rushing, he only had 15 yards last week, and a lot of his values came in the passing game. But based on how the game last week went, a lot of pressure on Rodgers. I think they're going to want to establish to run more, so you might expect to see better weeks from Aaron Jones as well. So 4-2, but still definitely playoff contender, probably a playoff team, and we'll see how much damage they could do, especially with Kyler looking so good. For Team El Capitan, this is a done chain. I gave it 0-3, and they won 3 straight to go to 3-3. It should have still been on because El Capitan would have lost to any other team in this league except for the team he played, Pain Train. But you got the win in fantasy again, mix of luck and skill. I still think, honestly, it's currently the weakest team in the league. But you being able to stay afloat while McCaffrey is inching back is promising. And I would have to give some credit to you if you find a way to make it to the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, if you have McCaffrey and then some pieces that you still have on your team, although I'm not in love at all, you never know. But bottom line is, I still think, even with McCaffrey, this is one of the weaker teams in the league. Congrats to coming back to 3-3. We'll see if you can keep it going. Titties up. Fuck, I always forget the exact one. Titties up. Titties down. Something like that. Pants down. I have it somewhere in my notepad. Either way, gets the win to go to 4-2, TBD. Response to the RB concern we were talking about with a really big pickup, actually, of Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman, not a great week, but I was shocked he was free. He was the most surprising free person going to this week that I saw. He only got you 6.7, so nothing to be too excited about, but it is a potential option at RB to pair with now DeAndre Swift being that probably second running back with a big week. DeAndre Swift, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's promising, really fixing the RB situation. And then another good management piece in the Giants D against Washington. That was a great pickup, and they got you 16 points. This is a win that was earned. The team looked very questionable going to this week, especially with Melvin being out, Jacobs having a bye, and Lockett having a bye, and you still have Eckler hurt. But finding a way to get a win, honestly, with the guys that we were talking about is pretty good management, so got to give credit to Titties Up, Titties Down. For Paco Libre, the loss to take you to 1-5, a really strong 1-5 team, but we have to talk about the benching here. The benching was surprising. He benched both David Johnson, 14 points, and Kenyon Drake, 34.5 points. I know it's easier said than done, but I am very surprised that you did bench them. You're very deep at running back, and wide receiver is more of a concerning position. I keep talking about trades, and this is the team that needed the trade the most, especially at 1-4 going into this week. Being in the RB situation you were in, you did not need Madison. Again, Madison had a bad week, and it's easier to say now. But once you picked up Madison, the whole league would value him. I would really try and flip him since he's only going to be good for 1 or 2 weeks, and you had DJ and Drake to play for these weeks. So he really added no value to the team. So that's a move I would have made. I'm shocked. This team is really, really, really strong at 1-5. I mean, for running backs to have DJ, to have Drake, to have Ronald Jones, and then to have Jonathan Taylor at running back, and then to have D-Hop, Michael Thomas, and then either Robbie or Debo as a third wide receiver. It's a really strong team. I mean, no one's going to want to play this team, but because of potentially some mistakes, unfortunately, this week, take the loss to go to 1-5. I'm not going to dun chain. I still think Paco Libre has a better chance of winning it all than some 3-3 teams, but sorry, not Paco Libre. Oh yeah, Paco Libre. But unfortunately, at 1-5, it's going to be very difficult for that to happen. So we'll keep an eye on it. But obviously, outside looking in right now, by a long shot. Gonna have to go on a big run. Oh, final note here is at tight end. Gesicki is the only actual concern of this team right now. And if you made a trade, probably trading for a tight end could be the move. Unfortunately, Dolphins have too many wide receivers. I honestly think Tannehill's trying to, not Tannehill. Wow, I'm off my game today. I honestly think Fitzpatrick's trying to find Gesicki, but I just think he is getting him mixed up with the other two wide tight ends on that team. So Gesicki not looking like an amazing option either. For the next game is between the Banditos versus Team We Want Jared. Another done chain of mine with another win to 2-4. And this is really good management also for this team. Lamar finally having a good week. I'd say AJ Brown was a good pickup that a lot of people were down on. That's 2 touchdowns, 22.6 points. Tanya, a pretty good tight end pickup despite not a great week. Gaskin, another good pickup that wasn't valued high this year at all. I think you probably got him after week 1 or something. And then Koo, even all the way down to the kicker, 21 points, and Koo's being an incredible kicker. So the Banditos, while not the strongest team, really managing the team effectively. The injuries, unfortunately, at the RB this week really cement the done chain, with Mostert now going to be out probably a few weeks. Miles Sanders is going to be out a few weeks. So now just absolutely starving for some help at running back. Unfortunately, this team is done. Despite the good week, 2-4, I'd be shocked if this team was able to come back. And I would give all the credit again to him, but it's not seeming like it's gonna happen. But we went with Jared to go to 1-5. We went with Jared. It was also actually pretty well managed. As far as some of these starts, Claypool a really great pickup. James White a really good start. So another team that's doing all they can, not the most talent, but doing all they can. But unfortunately, does go to 1-5. We talked about dealing Chubb. I think that's a move you had to make to start winning now. Chubb could go to a team that's going to definitely make the playoffs. That could afford to take the hit. I think you need some value now. Unfortunately, didn't get that value. Wouldn't have won either way. You lost by 32 to a good team. But those opportunities are still there unless you want to keep rolling with James White. Bottom line for this team is that they are 1-5. Another team that probably, if they were right now in a playoff spot, I'd say they're probably a playoff team, but outside of it, I don't know if it's good enough to be able to come back. So we'll keep an eye on this team. Another team that's, though, doing all they can, well managed, and can't really point the finger at too many mistakes. Professor S finally shows that he is a human with the loss to go to 5-1. This is the week to lose, honestly. If there was ever going to be a week to lose, because Kamara was on a bye, Carson was on a bye, Kelly was on a bye, Keenan was on a bye. So that's 4 starters on a bye. Can't beat yourself up over this one. Still put up 137 points, would have beat most teams in the league. But now, I mean, when we're talking about your volume, we talk about depth. You got even more depth now. You got J.K. Dobbins now with Ingram being banged up. Not sure how much time he'll miss, if any. But I think he might miss a week or two. And if that happens, Dobbins could be a good option for you. So just more value, more trade pieces you can make. We talked last week about it being so deep that you could probably trade for more studs, but would still do that. Assuming this week you didn't because of all the buys. But I would hope that it's a consideration this week. If I'm missing all the trades, my bad. But if I'm not, this league gotta make some moves. Let's see some moves. I know the chat's active. I think I know people pick up on waivers. Let's make some trades. A lot of teams can benefit, mutually beneficial trades. So 5-1 here. You're in a driver's seat. You're gonna make the playoffs. Just really a focus if you want to even strengthen your team right now because you have the leverage. Chairman with a must win to go to 4-2. It was a must win, mainly because CEH is going to be losing value. So you knew you'd be getting Edwards-Helaire value, and he did get you 24.5 points, which is huge. You started Derrick Henry this week. I think you benched him last week or the week before. Not sure why, but either way, 48.4 points this week for Derrick Henry, so that's fantastic. You're putting folks on notice that there's a contender team. The question marks were Goff over Matty Ice, Devontae over Justin Jefferson, but those are a lot of moves that a lot of people would have made. It does provide you a lot of clarity and depth going into next week, knowing that Matty Ice is back with a new coaching staff and probably going to have more value than what we saw the last few weeks. Justin Jefferson looks like one of the top receivers talent-wise in the league, and probably in a situation where it's a 2-wide receiver team always. He's kind of taking that dig spot and having his like huge spike weeks and then not as great weeks. So obviously want to go matchup based there, but this is a contender. Team now has depth. Team has options. If CEH doesn't lose too much value with Le'Veon, it's definitely a strong contender. So expect to see this being another team that could win it all. So with all that said, we still have 2 done chains. We did not give a third out, although this week I expect there to be a couple more going to the done chain aisle based on the matchups that we're going to be seeing. But either way, congrats to those who won. Best of luck to those who lost next week. And that is all. Have a good one, everyone.